up very quickly. Now he's got Charles Leclerc catching behind. Leclerc in 9th, Verstappen 8th. Leclerc's got a gulf behind him as Lando Norris just cleared Magnussen. That was 40 seconds adrift of Charles Leclerc. So he is in a nice position where he doesn't have to worry about anyone from behind and can just attack the cars ahead. But attacking has been difficult. Driving offline has been difficult. Overtaking has been difficult. And Leclerc's got to do plenty of that if he wants to get more than 9th place. Oh, DRS has been enabled.
Interesting. So, if you're within a second of the car in front, you can open the flap in the rear wing, the drag reduction system, and get some more speed down the straights. And that will aid overtaking. And they were all, I have to say, watching Vettel come through...
They are going quite quickly. 1 minute 43.7. Stroll's latest lap, his best lap of the race, still 3.3 seconds quicker. There is a drying line, and they're getting there. But... do you dare go DRS, barreling into turn 12 on the damper part with a load of rear downforce missing? Of course you do to try and overtake, but it's a risky play. Albon's really struggling. Albon is dropping more than anyone right now, and in fact, he's just given the Racing Points a load of breathing space in front, and he's only 1 second clear of Vettel. So after Albon's been the attacker for so long, he's now got his mirrors full of Vettel and Hamilton once again.
Lap 31 of 58. Lance Stroll leading. Sergio Perez is second. There's 3.5 seconds between them.
It's a matter of taking these to the transition.
I don't think there's going to be a transition, to be honest. It's slippery as hell out here.
Well, Hamilton says, I don't think there'll be a transition. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc from 9th place comes into the pits. He's going for another set of intermediates. So Charles Leclerc, in 9th place in the Ferrari, he came up to the back of Verstappen, obviously figured maybe he wouldn't be able to get past, and he's committed now for another set of intermediate tyres. Hamilton's saying, I don't think it's going to dry up.
Yeah, that's a good move there for Ferrari. That's the gap that I said. Leclerc had no one behind him, and he could pit for another set of tyres, and he pits for inters, and now he can basically roar up to the back of everyone else in front, including Verstappen, that's really struggling on their tyres. The only thing for Leclerc is he can also chew through this set of inters very quickly if he's not careful, because the track is just on the edge of a little bit dry for intermediates. Still with 27 laps to go. It's a long time in this race. Getting these tyres to last potentially to the end of the race seems too much of a stretch. Will it dry out? I reckon it will do relatively, probably 10 laps maybe from a slick gamble.
Nathan asks, using hashtag BBCF1, can someone explain to me why the Verstappen white line incident is being investigated after the race? There's no precedent for that. I can't, I'm afraid.
Michael Massey will try at the end of the race.
Yeah, because it's a sporting thing. Like, there's no appropriate punishment other than a sort of in-race time penalty or a drive-through penalty. Very strange.
It's madness. Why he either crossed the white line, in which case, in the history of Formula 1, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
Or you don't, and it's not a penalty. Just look at the footage. Did he cross it? Yes or no? Give the penalty now. Why hold that over Verstappen? Verstappen would probably rather have the penalty now than wait till there's a safety car at the end and he loses 10 positions with a 5-second penalty. You know, let's just have it done on the road now.
But what I don't understand is that they said it was under investigation for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they said it would be investigated. So,
well, they obviously want to hear Verstappen's version of events. And what's Verstappen going to say? Oh, let me guess. Oh, it was very slippery coming out the pits, and that's why I slightly crossed the white line. Well, is that a mitigation now?
Hamilton's just run a little bit wide coming out of turn 3 as they're trying to lap Kimi Raikkonen's Alfa Romeo that's just come out of the pits on a new set of intermediate tyres. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, and just having a look at Verstappen, the tyres that the team put him onto are actually used intermediates. They've done a lot of laps on them, 21 laps, which is the same as the people in front of him. So he's on horrible tyres anyway. They seem to be going all right for the moment, but Charles Leclerc just put onto a new set of intermediates.
Yeah, say his tyres are all the same as everybody else, basically, because they all pitted around about the same time. There's a good drive here for Carlos Sainz. Really, really nicely done. He's going to get ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and move up into 6th position, or is he? Because Ricciardo's on the dry line. Verstappen is lurking just behind these two, and Sainz got the move done and then gets the DRS on the run down into turn 12. Very nice driving from the Spaniard, whereas Verstappen is now joining this party as well. 6th is Sainz in the McLaren, 7th is Ricciardo in the Renault, 8th is Verstappen in the Red Bull, and Ricciardo pits.
Yeah, he made a mistake at turn 9. He went in too deep, and that allowed Sainz to get the exit. And Renault, seeing that he's just been overtaken, scramble out with a new set of intermediates, presumably to try and cover off Charles Leclerc, who's about to come through and set fastest lap. It might be a little bit too late for Daniel Ricciardo with that scruffy lap and being passed, but he's pitting for a new set of inters anyway.
Yeah, Leclerc's got him, I'm pretty sure. Coming down the start-finish straight now and into turn 1, it looks as though the Ferrari driver is going to be ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Such is the strength of his pace on the outlap. In fact, he sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on a 1 minute 40.9. So that is over 2 seconds quicker than Stroll and Perez in the lead of the Grand Prix.
There's a dry line, but it's still freaking wet in some places.
Stroll's getting frustrated, isn't he? He's like, yeah, there's a dry line, but it's still wet. But yeah. The thing is, if it goes dry, do the Racing Points struggle? Is it better for them if it stays wet? Because they've been untouchable in the wet.
Yeah, of course they don't want it to dry now. Racing Point just want this to stay wet till the end, and they can win the race. If it dries up, then you'd expect Hamilton to roar through. You'd expect the Red Bulls to roar through. They're faster cars. Surely they will do it. DRS is now available as well. The dry line slick tyres would be very bad for the race leaders. We haven't really mentioned Stroll that much out front. He's doing a cracking job under all this pressure, leading a Grand Prix for 34 laps. This is a bit Vettel-esque in Monza. He's not made any mistakes of note, and still leads the way for Perez. 2 seconds now between the two of them.
Vettel pits, and it's a slow stop for Ferrari, but looking at the tyres that came off Vettel's car, they're sort of almost slicks. They've been worn down so much at the front on the sort of contact patches with the road. A 5-second pit stop for Sebastian Vettel, so that promotes Hamilton up into 4th place. He's now got clear air. He's still set to... Albon spun! Alex Albon has spun from 3rd position. He was closing in on the 2 Racing Points in the lead, but now he's spun and given Hamilton 3rd place. Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again, but Albon was running really well in Imola last time out and spun, and he's now done basically exactly the same thing here. Almost came back on the track and wiped out Lewis Hamilton, but that's gutting for Albon once again.
Yeah, mistake on his own, heading into turn 4, right-hander. Just got slightly wide onto the wetter patch, and the car couldn't take it at the rear end. As a spin round was inches from Hamilton, really, really close to wiping Hamilton out, but that's worked beautifully for Lewis Hamilton now. Vettel pitting at the same lap as Albon spins. Suddenly he's unleashed into 3rd place, and what tyre life has he got left in those intermediates as well, because now he's got a nice gap to try and chase Sergio Perez for 2nd.
Still enough to wrap up the championship, this 3rd place for Hamilton. Here's his radio.
Don't box me, man.
I think he said, don't box me, man?
Yeah, don't box. Vettel once again has given up track position. Oh, Racing Points are very close out front. 1.4 seconds between Stroll and Perez. Vettel's given up track position for a better set of tyres, but overtaking looks so tricky that Hamilton basically wants the track position. Albon now pits as well, so that's Vettel back into 4th place. But Hamilton doesn't want to pit. He wants to just stay on this set of inters rather than give up track position back to Sebastian Vettel.
Albon does pit for a new set of intermediate tyres, so that means Verstappen is up into 4th place. Lance Stroll leads the Grand Prix here, but he's just 1.4 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, and he is just 4 seconds ahead of Hamilton, but Hamilton was 3 seconds quicker than race leader Stroll on that last lap.
Surely Racing Point have got to think about a switch.
How long can this tyre go for?
Yeah, we don't know that, Lewis.
Yeah, that's the problem as well. Well, so Lance Stroll leading the Grand Prix for Racing Point. The team that used to be Force India was saved from going out of business by Lance Stroll's dad, Lawrence, who bought the team, put his son in the car, and his son's not been great, but he's been getting better, and this has been a superb drive. But Sergio Perez in 2nd place, the Mexican that they're kicking out of the team at the end of this year in 4 races' time, is quicker than Stroll. What do you do here?
For the team point of view, I think you've got to let Perez go through now. Hamilton is reeling them in super, super quick in the Mercedes, and Perez is a lot quicker than Stroll at this moment. they're within a second. Perez is going to have DRS on Stroll. They're going to hold each other up and can lose a race win in this phase. They've got 2 cars to lap. It's Russell and Pierre Gasly they got a lap now. And Perez, they can't afford to mess around here. I think they've got to let Perez run free at the front of the race right now and see if Stroll can hold Hamilton back.
Sound you can hear is Sergio Perez, the Mexican.
We're going to Interlance. We're going to put another set of inters on. So what do you want with their...
Why are we doing that? Why?
Stay out then, stay out.
Oh, well, there wasn't really much argument there, was there? It was, we're putting a pair of inters on. Why? Okay, stay out.
Yeah, it's a really tough call now. Do you lose track position and go for a better set of tyres, or do you stay in the race lead on a very worn set? Oh, this could be a chance, though. Magnussen is being wheeled back into the pit lane. Yellow flag. Something's gone wrong with Magnussen in the Haas as he's exited the pits. But I don't think there's going to be a safety car for that.
No, looks as though they will just about get Magnussen back in and up the pit lane. And what happened then? He came into the pit stop. The front tyres are changed. The front right looked a little sort of bit clunky going on. And then he was released. And then the right front's not on, I don't think.
The light went green for Magnussen to go. He went, and as soon as it went green, it went back to red. I think they realised that it wasn't all good, and it was too late. He was leaving the pits, and he's now being wheeled back in. Stroll's been called back into the pits. He's only just ahead of Perez by 7/10, and this time he does pit for a new set of intermediates, one can assume. Hamilton now, second place, 1.7 seconds off Perez, or even closer now. It looks 1 second away from Perez.
That also gets Racing Point around the trouble of, do we let Stroll through, do we let Perez through? They've done the, you'd have to say, the sensible thing with Lance Stroll, but where's this going to bring him out compared to Verstappen? Verstappen's just coming around the final corner now. Verstappen could be back in front of Stroll here. He's coming down the start-finish straight. He looked as though he was out of contention, but now he's dropping down into the left-hander of the first corner, and is he going to be in front? It's going to be so tight. Yes! Verstappen emerges in front of Lance Stroll, so Verstappen is kind of in the net lead of the Grand Prix.
Amazingly, with very short tyres, he is in the net lead of the race. So, Sainz has taken a pit stop to cover off Ricciardo. That unleashed Verstappen fully, and now he's ahead of Lance Stroll, back up into third place. Stroll emerged 5 seconds clear of Vettel, but he has given up track position to Verstappen in third. So Perez leads Hamilton, and now Verstappen. Perez and Hamilton both haven't pitted, and surely will try and just go longer and longer on this intermediate.
Verstappen's tyres are as old as Hamilton's and Perez's, though. Even though he changed, presumably he had to change to a tyre that he'd done a long running with in practice. But here comes Hamilton now for the lead. Sergio Perez in the Racing Point, defends the inside line, but he can't stop Hamilton. Sweeping around the outside into the lead of the Grand Prix. He's already going to wrap up this title because Valtteri Bottas, his only rival, is having a horrible afternoon. But Lewis Hamilton, out of nowhere, is now in front. He's got ahead of Sergio Perez. He leads the race, although with the caveat that Verstappen and Stroll are still out there a long way back, and will Hamilton have to pit again?
But actually, Verstappen's tyres are similar, Nick, to Hamilton's.
Yeah.
So Verstappen was also complaining of his tyres. So Verstappen's not the net race leader. Hamilton is, and he's the actual race leader.
They're graining already.
Stroll saying the tyres are graining already. Is that because it's sort of too dry?
Yeah, that's the problem. You switch to a new set of inters, they're great for 1 or 2 laps, but then you're in the same problem driving an intermediate on a track that's too dry for them, and they'll grain up again. So Stroll, I think Racing Point have maybe not called this one quite right by pitting Stroll onto an inters behind now Max Verstappen. They've got one driver behind a Red Bull in 4th. The other one's just been overtaken by a Mercedes for the race lead, and suddenly in a few laps, what was looking so good, a 1-2 for the duration of the race so far, is starting to unfold.
Lap 38 of 58, the Turkish Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. It's Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, with me, Jack Nichols. We've got Jenny Gow keeping us up to date as well. And Hamilton is leading the race. Sergio Perez is 1.8 seconds behind Hamilton now. Hamilton started 6th, got to 3rd in the early stages, then started to drop back, having made a mistake down at turn 9. And now the race is just coming back to him. The drier it gets. And in fact, Charles Leclerc is right on the back of Alex Albon now in their fight over 6th position. So Hamilton leads, Perez 2nd. Those are the 2 drivers up at the front that have only made 1 pit stop. 2 pit stops have been Verstappen, Stroll, Vettel, Albon, Leclerc, Sainz, Ricciardo and Norris, the top 10. Ocon, Kvyat, Bottas, Gasly, Russell, the top 15. Raikkonen, Grosjean, Magnussen, Latifi, the top 19. Leclerc getting super loose as he came through the flat-out left-hander at 11. He's trying to pass Alex Albon for 6th position.
Didn't quite have enough to make it through at the inside of turn 12 there. Very, very loose. The same place that Verstappen spun the car earlier on trying to pass Perez. But Albon's not very quick, having taken that pit stop. He's behind Vettel. Remember, he had the spin as well before the pit stop. And now he's got the other Ferrari of Leclerc breathing down his neck. So Leclerc was the first to take a 2nd pit stop for Inters, and it's worked nicely for him. He jumped Ricciardo and Sainz, and now he's on the back of Albon for 6th place.
Lap 39 of 58. Hamilton now 4 seconds clear of Sergio Perez. Verstappen in 3rd, Stroll in 4th, Vettel in 5th.
Perez 3 seconds slower than Verstappen on the last lap.
But the same as Lance Stroll, who pitted for his teammate, who pitted for new tyres.
Yeah, they're falling away at this moment, Racing Point. They're falling away badly, and Stroll's being caught by Sebastian Vettel. That's now for 4th place. Vettel is catching Stroll, bringing with him Albon and Leclerc. And Stroll have not been quick, and Perez not been quick at this phase of the race. Racing Point really struggling.
Lando Norris sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Oh, Nicholas Latifi's just had a spin and just kept it out of the gravel up at the top of the crest at turn 3. And it manages to keep going. Lap 39 of 58. Hamilton leading 5 seconds clear now ahead of Sergio Perez. Sound you're hearing is Charles Leclerc again trying to pass him. Vettel is going past Stroll. They're side by side coming through turn 11, but Vettel's got the move made as they come down the straight now in towards turn 12. Stroll's going to try and fight back. Looks to the inside. Late on the brakes. Vettel turns in. Stroll sails through. Sails past. Sails wide. And that means that both Ferraris are ahead now. So Vettel into 4th place. Leclerc into 5th. Stroll down to 6th. And the fairy tale day for the Canadian is slipping away. Albon is trying to get past him as well and up into 6th position, but now Stroll is behind the Ferraris.
So as Vettel passed Stroll, Leclerc passed Albon, and now Albon is the next car to try and pass Lance Stroll. They were super close in the final couple of corners. I don't think they touched with Albon's front wing. It still looks intact, but it was very, very tight to just clipping Stroll, who was coming from a ride on the inside, having sailed into turn 12 a little bit deep, defending from Vettel. It's really, really unfolding for Lance Stroll now. He's defending for 6th place. He's not got this set of tyres to work in the slightest.
I think Latifi might have had another spin, you know, at the end of that lap. Lap 40 of 58. Here's Sainz.
Could be some rain with 8 laps to go. That's 10 laps away, but we're not clear yet. It's not sure, Carlos.
So Sainz being told we could have some rain in 10 laps time. But what are the tyres going to be like in that situation? Sainz has only done 6 laps on his new tyres. Norris has only done 3 and just sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Hamilton and Bottas have done the most of anyone in terms of laps on these tyres. They've got 34 under their belt, the Mercedes drivers. Leclerc now is on the back of his teammate at Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel. They're coming through the flat-out right-hander. He'll open the DRS, he'll go to the outside, and he'll breeze past, actually coming down into turn 12. So DRS has helped overtaking. It's taken away a little bit of the spectacle, as it always does, but Leclerc goes through up into 4th spot, and he is 10 seconds behind Max Verstappen.
Albon right on the back of... oh no, he's got past Lance Stroll this time. And actually, there's Carlos Sainz now behind Lance Stroll. So Albon's made it finally past Stroll. Sainz is the next man to come up to Stroll. Stroll's not got the tyres working at all, and he's just tumbling through the order. Perez is stabilised a little bit more up in 2nd place. 9.5 seconds behind Hamilton. 3 seconds lost on the last lap. Stabilised at a slow pace, but he's at least still 10 seconds ahead of Verstappen.
Bottas has had another spin. He lost 13 seconds in the first sector on this lap. So I think we're just going to get a look at it. Oh no, we're looking at how Albon got past Stroll. It was a nice move up the inside into turn 12, and Bottas, was it at turn 1 again for the Finn? It was. Oh, it's the same puddle.
Same puddle, same result. And the same frustrated Valtteri Bottas boots the throttle afterwards.
Oh, and that was the other reason for quite a long yellow flag. Nicholas Latifi hitting Romain Grosjean as they were, well, I think Latifi's a couple of laps down. But, yeah, not ideal, and Latifi's now in the pits. Grosjean down into 17th. Lap 41 of 58. Hamilton leading the Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live, and this is his radio.
Looks like it's getting darker. Is there more rain?
There is a risk of it. Yeah, copy, it's getting darker.
Hamilton asking whether there's going to be some more rain. They're saying there is a risk of it. Lando Norris now, sorry, Carlos Sainz is going past Lance Stroll, and Stroll is down to 8th position. No, he's holding the inside line, but exactly the same as last time. Sails in too deep, allowing the McLaren to get ahead in the end. Although Sainz is on the wet stuff now too, but I think he is going to hold on to the position, the Spanish driver, and he is now up into 7th position. So Stroll, really, after that pit stop for new intermediate tyres, has absolutely nothing.
Oh, it's painful viewing now for Lance Stroll. From the lead to 8th place with a pit stop in very quick succession. He's lost 4 places. He's got no grip at all. And this is just going really, really badly for him. For a race that he led about 34 laps of it before pitting. He looked so good out front, and as soon as he's made that pit stop, he was being caught by Perez just before it, but he made the pit stop, and now it's just looking very, very desperate times.
Remember when I said the top 3 had never won a Grand Prix before?
You nearly crashed into me.
Sainz saying he nearly crashed into me with regards to Lance Stroll, but there was a time where Perez, Albon and Stroll were the top 3. Now Hamilton is leading. Okay, Perez is still there in 2nd place, but then you've got the usual suspects, Verstappen, Leclerc and Vettel. The rest of the top 5. Albon is 6th, Sainz is 7th, Stroll is 8th, Ricciardo 9th and Norris 10th. Outside of the top 10, you've got Ocon, Kvyat, Bottas, Gasly, Raikkonen, Russell, Grosjean, Magnussen. Russell's, sorry. Oh no, he has made a pit stop now and he's down in 16th place.
They crossed the line to start lap 43. It's a Mercedes from a Mercedes. Number 77 ahead of number 44, but he's got the blue flag by his teammate in the race that he needed to beat him to keep the championship alive for another round. He's about to be lapped with 15 laps to go. He's had a torrid drive, about 5 spins, and now he's got his teammate coming up in the mirrors and a blue flag.
Nicholas Latifi is out of the Grand Prix. He's retiring, and we're on lap 43 of 58. Valtteri Bottas about to be lapped by his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who is cruising to a 7th World Championship title. Jenny.
Yeah, just speaking to Racing Point, and Lance Stroll just cannot get these new intermediate tyres to work. They are brand new, so they should have worked a little bit better, but it's up to 6 laps now, so hopefully they'll kick in at some point, but the team really frustrated by it. And just to give you an update on Hamilton, he's desperately trying to build his lead. He'd like a free pit stop, which means he needs a 20-second advantage over Sergio Perez if he's going to come in, switch his tyres and get out still being ahead. At the moment, it's just coming up to 15 seconds advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know why I spent most of this Grand Prix not really thinking Hamilton would be in the mix. Like, I genuinely, for the first 30 laps, he was there, he was doing some good laps and everything, but you never really thought he was going to be in contention for the win. Here comes Charles Leclerc. He's going past Max Verstappen for 3rd place. Good drive this from Leclerc. The Ferrari up into 3rd spot now. Verstappen down to 4th. And he's also managed to get 5 seconds ahead of his teammate Vettel. Verstappen pits then for what one can only presume will be a new set of intermediate tyres.
A Red Bull going to take the gamble here. He's very late to pit. With only 14 laps to go for another set of intermediates seems an interesting decision.
If anyone's going to do it. But it's not. It's another set of intermediates.
Yeah, so he's just been passed out of the podium places by Leclerc. Almost gets an unsafe release as a Williams comes through. Latifi coming into the Russell, coming into the pits. Latifi out of the race, and away he goes in 7th place. overtaking's just got that bit easier, hasn't it?
Yeah.
DRS, Leclerc didn't have to work for that at all. He's just got good drive coming off turn 10. And by the time he opens the DRS, he sails through. And therefore, your track position is less crucial. And Verstappen would rather pit, have a bit of grip, and try and do a couple of flybys of his own.
Lap 44 of 58. Lando Norris still has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in 10th position. Hamilton's lead 16 seconds over Sergio Perez. But do you know what I mean about Hamilton winning the Grand Prix? Like, it never really kind of crossed my mind in the early stages. He was in 6th place. He was doing a good job. But Mercedes haven't looked strong all weekend. And then suddenly, before you know it, in the space of 5 laps, he's leading the Grand Prix.
And he's marching away with it.
Yeah.
16 seconds. He's almost got a free pit stop out front. And he called it from the car again. When Vettel pitted, remember Vettel was ahead of Hamilton. Vettel pitted for another set of inters, and Hamilton said, don't pit me.
Yeah.
And once again, it's looking good. Maybe Mercedes wouldn't have pitted him anyway, but that call to leave him out there with the free air finally has really paid off.
Next to get past Carlos Sainz is up the inside of Alex Albon. He's the next man to get past the Red Bull. Sainz is having a good drive here. He's up into 5th position now in that McLaren. A very, very good day for the Spaniard. Been very impressive. Lap 45 of 58. Jenny.
Yeah, just having a look at that, Merc. Do you remember, I think it was on long run pace corner, Andrew Benson, our chief F1 writer, said that the pace of Mercedes when it came to this race looked pretty impressive. Well, I think that's come to ride out itself, hasn't it?
Yeah, but just the different conditions are the issue when Mercedes struggled so much to get temperature into their tyres, and we're just looking at Verstappen's tyres that came off, and they're basically slick where the actual tyre meets the road.
Yeah, they're completely worn away. All the tread of the intermediate tyre that's there to disperse water is gone, and it is basically a slick tyre. The same that Perez is on, and Hamilton. They're actually on older tyres than Verstappen was on, and the top 2 in the race are still staying out there with 13 laps to go. Perez was 2 seconds slower than Leclerc. He's going to have Leclerc up behind him in a few laps' time, and then it's whether he can hold on to Sebastian Vettel before the end of the race. Vettel's got Carlos Sainz, though, flying up behind him. Sainz is having a really under-the-radar good drive.
Jenny.
I'm just wondering, do you think Mercedes actually set their car up so that it would be more inclined to work in this weather? Because we always knew the track was going to rubber in at some point, and the conditions today were always going to be slightly different to yesterday. So I just wonder if that's maybe a rationale behind this?
Well, you wouldn't have thought so, because they were so lost yesterday with qualifying and on Friday as well. And, you know, they sort of said it themselves that they were pretty lost when it came to these conditions. Hamilton has now got ahead of Valtteri Bottas, because I think what we're seeing here as well is a Hamilton masterclass.
Yeah, as Hamilton passes Bottas, Bottas actually wasn't getting out of the way very quickly for him, but he overcooked it into turn 1 and slithered off the road. And then Hamilton did get past Bottas as Valtteri didn't get on the power through turn 2. But then as Hamilton disappeared off, Bottas goes sideways through turn 3, runs wide off the road, then through 4 as well, then turns into the left of turn 5, runs off the road. He's just gone 4 corners off the road in a row as Hamilton just moves serenely on at the front of the race now. It's just epitomised the differing fortunes of the 2 Mercedes.
A brutal tweet from Glenn Freeman, a journalist for the race, who says, "To whom it may concern, you've just been lapped by your teammate," which is a bit of a harsh one. But we're also seeing perhaps the 2 greatest tyre managers running in 1st and 2nd places here. Hamilton and Perez, the only drivers to have only made 1 stop. Everybody else has come in, put new tyres on, and they're munching through them.
Max, what are your thoughts on conditions?
I think not ready for slicks.
Copy.
Verstappen saying it's not ready for slicks, but in a race where it's about keeping the tyres in good condition, Hamilton and Perez are actually going to be your 2 best bets.
Yeah, so good at it over the length of their careers. And they have done monstrous. It's just the 1 pit stop for Hamilton and Perez. Verstappen's now made 3. One of them was forced because of the flat spots, but he then got through his latest set of intermediates very quickly, and he's had to take another set. And now he's on the back of his teammate Alex Albon for 6th place. Red Bull looking so good at one point in this Grand Prix, with 11 laps to go, are running 6th and 7th. Albeit Verstappen now can have a bit of a charge on some new tyres that he should be able to keep intact for the rest of the race. It's true, though, about the top 2. Perez has just done a personal best lap of the race, and actually, he's starting to keep that racing point looking quite good. Just 1.4 seconds slower than Leclerc behind. 8 seconds still the gap with 11 to go. Perez is certainly looking like he can challenge for a podium.
Bottas has had another moment in Sector 1 and has now been overtaken by Pierre Gasly. So the AlphaTauri driver, who started from the back of the grid, is now up into 13th place. Bottas drops another spot down to 14th position. And Hamilton is leading the Grand Prix. I think if you told me on about lap 3, even before the start of the race, when we have 10 laps to go, Hamilton will be leading by 18 seconds, you'd have been like, no, surely not this time. Of all the times, not this time. But Hamilton showing his class and disappearing up the front of the field. Jenny?
And Lewis Hamilton being very caring about his teammate as well, just pointing out over team radio, saying just so he knows, that's Bottas, he's got blue flags. I know he's a mile away, but I don't want him to get a penalty for it. Very considerate of Lewis Hamilton.
Do you think he'll say the same when Bottas gets blue flags for Perez behind as well?
Now, who's coming into the pits is Bottas, and he's going for another set of intermediates. I thought for a moment it was slicks, but no, another set of intermediate tyres. Hamilton now has 42 laps done on these intermediate tyres.
Slicks for Valtteri Bottas at this stage of the race would be the last thing Mercedes would be thinking about doing when he's spun 5 times already. It is a bit wet still. Have to see someone take the gamble, but it's actually got nothing to gain. He's too far away from even making a gamble work at this stage with 10 laps to go. It's one of those days.
It's a Kvyat gamble or someone like that. He's sitting in 12th at the moment. He's not far from the drivers in front, but you're not scoring any points as it stands. But it just looks too wet. They're still kicking up spray.
Yeah, it's just too wet. The track's not drying very quickly. It's 14 degrees track temperature. It's 13 degrees air temperature. You know, from a November day in the UK, yeah. The roads just don't dry that quickly. And it's the same right now in Turkey.
Honestly, like, I've been wanting to mow my lawn for the last time but for weeks, but it just never dry enough. Lap 48 of 58. Daniel, using hashtag UBCF1, says, this is quite simply a drive of a champion. It's not all about the car, it's about the driver, and Bottas is proving it today. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is, yeah. He's just done such a good job across the... spin for Grosjean.
Yeah.
Yellow flag, final corner. No, nothing major there. But yeah, no, he's done it all right. He's made some mistakes in there. He made a great start, lost a few places early on, and then he's just been quick where it counts. He had just that one window where it opened up for him. Albon spun as Vettel pitted, and he went from 5th to 3rd. And that's when Lewis Hamilton doesn't need an invitation to win. And that was the moment where suddenly he had 2 cars that he was stuck behind. It allowed him a nice, easy pass on Sergio Perez. And when Stroll pitted, that's the race lead there. But to drive away 20 seconds in front, he's getting it right. Everyone's made some mistakes in this race. Hamilton as well. But he's made the smallest mistakes.
Oh, Ricciardo has made one now. The Renault has spun at turn 12. He had Lando Norris trying to pass him for 9th position. He tried to be the latest of the late breakers, which is what Ricciardo is so good at, but he locked up and ended up spinning. Norris did well not to get collected in that moment, and Ricciardo drops to 10th place. Norris is up to 9th. So 10 laps to go, and it is Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, Vettel, Sainz, the top 5. Albon, Verstappen, Stroll, Norris, Ricciardo, the top 10. And Hamilton looks set to win that 7th world title, and we'll have a special tomorrow evening here on 5 Live Sport about Lewis Hamilton and his 7th World Championship title. If you want to listen to that, I'm sure it'll also be available as a Checker Flag podcast too. We'll have a post-race Checker Flag podcast available later on this afternoon.
Interestingly, Red Bull have got Verstappen still running behind Albon, and they've not told Albon to get out of the way for Verstappen here. Verstappen on the much fresher tyres is just struggling to pass his teammate. He's about 2 seconds back. He's not crawling all over the rear wing of his teammate, but it's really holding back his progress and what you thought would be a racy final stint. I guess Red Bull would say, if you can't pass your teammate for 6th, then what hope have you got of moving up and catching those guys that have already passed him? But it is just costing Verstappen a little bit of time here.
Jenny?
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, remember, trying to build up a lead so he can have the option of a pit stop coming in and out before Perez can overtake him for the lead of this race, and he's almost there now. He needs a 20-second advantage to come in, do the pit stop, change tyres and get back out. It's just so close. Question is, will they bring him in or not?
Well, the crucial one really is Leclerc, isn't it, in third position, because if Hamilton and Perez are in very similar positions in terms of tyres, so if one of them has to pit, the other one will have to pit. But also we've got 8 laps to go, and Hamilton is setting easily comfortable lap times. Oh, Leclerc has gone a little bit out of sorts at turn 3. He's gone off the road. Has that allowed his teammate through? No, not quite. Vettel was 5 seconds back down the road, so that's remained.
Perez in second, who's matching best on that last lap. He's just done the fastest middle sector of anyone. Perez, he's flying again in this late phase. So they went through a real phase of pain, Sergio Perez and Racing Point. Stroll's never recovered. He's down in 8th, although he is now stabilising pace, and Lando Norris has got 13 seconds to make up to pass him. Remember, Norris was 40 seconds off Leclerc at one point, let alone another personal best. 1/10 quicker than Hamilton. The top 2 are looking good, and with Leclerc's mistake on that last lap, Perez has just opened up a 7-second margin again with 7 laps to go to the Ferrari.
Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, the top 3 at the moment. Vettel, Sainz and Albon are the top 6, but Albon has Verstappen right behind him, his Red Bull teammate. Stroll is in 8th position, 9th is Norris, 10th is Ricciardo, 11th is Ocon. Kvyat, Gasly, Bottas, Raikkonen in the top 15. Russell, Grosjean and Magnussen. The Haas is both 2 laps down. We've seen Grosjean spin once at the final corner. He got hit once, I think, by Nicholas Latifi as well. So it's been a miserable day for the Haas drivers. Latifi and Grosjean, the 2.
Ritul for letting their drivers race out these final laps. Oh, spin for Raikkonen down at turn 4, and spin for Verstappen.
They almost spin in unison. So Raikkonen goes around, Verstappen goes around, and that gives Albon a bit of breathing space. You should be able to hold on to that 6th position.
Verstappen will be charging again no time soon. I reckon. Just a full 360 for Verstappen. They were coming round to lap Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen got slightly wide onto the wetter patch, and then so did Verstappen, just crept a wheel wide, and they both spun, synchronised spinning, and that's put Verstappen back a few seconds then.
That was the sound of Verstappen spinning. Hamilton leading the Grand Prix. Lap 52 of 58 he's starting now, so 7 laps to go between he and a 7th World Championship. And Bottas needed to keep, here's his radio.
All I want to know is there's no concern of this tyre, any of these tyres blowing up, right?
None at the moment, Lewis. We looked at Valtteri's that did similar distance, looked in similar condition, but nothing to worry about.
Right, well, Hamilton just concerned. If you remember the British Grand Prix at Silverstone earlier this year, where his tyre blew up on the final lap, that's what he wants to avoid. But as it stands, if it blew up on the final lap, he'd still win that 7th championship. Bottas needed to finish 6th to have any chance of keeping the championship alive. He's down in 14th position. Hamilton comfortably cruising to that 7th Formula One world title. He's coming up through turns 9 and 10 now, over the crest of the hill into 11th. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix set by Lando Norris, who's he's pinged in a couple of fastest laps throughout this race, Norris, a couple of flashes of speed. His teammate Carlos Sainz, though, is up in 5th position. He's just been sort of a bit more consistent with it, Sainz. Has Norris had a spin or something?
No, he had a bad start and just didn't get going for the first half of the race. Was stuck in the lower end of the field, behind the likes of Russell, who he dive-bombed at turn 14, remember. Then he passed Kevin Magnussen, and then he was unleashed in some clear air, and he's had good pace since. He's only now 9 seconds off Lance Stroll for 8th place. Stroll, who led for the first half of the race, so massive different fortunes.
And heavy rain expected for the last lap of the race. Heavy rain.
That's a bit of fun, isn't it? Sebastian Vettel being told heavy rain is expected for the last lap of the race. Verstappen, after his spin, has caught the back of Albon and is now cruising past his Red Bull teammate. So Verstappen up into 6th position, Albon in 7th, and for a lot of today, Albon's looked there or thereabouts with his teammate. Actually, for a lot of this weekend he has, but in the end, Verstappen is coming out on top. They're both about to lap Valtteri Bottas now.
It's been a race of mistakes for the Red Bulls. They've had such good pace in the wet conditions. They've had great pace all weekend. Verstappen top 3 practices, all of them. Top qualifying was looking great until the final moments. Got pipped by Lance Stroll. But then today, they got an awful start. Both cars got jumped by loads and loads of the top 10. And then they've both had spins. Verstappen's had 2 of them. And now they're fighting around for 6th and 7th. Verstappen, I thought, was in great shape to try and fight for the win, but it's just not happened at all for him today.
It felt like this was Red Bull's race to lose almost. They had so much better pace in the early stages than the racing points. You know, Verstappen, on paper, should at least be finishing 2nd in this Grand Prix, and you'd have thought he would have had the minerals and the pace to fight it out with Hamilton for the win.
Yeah, he was clear of Hamilton, wasn't he? He was chasing Perez when he had a spin through turn 11, and that's really what derailed it. Another pit stop put him back into the midfield, and then at that point overtaking wasn't so easy. Then the DRS came about, was enabled, and it became a little bit more easy for him. But even then, he's been stuck behind his teammate for 5 laps. It's just not quite happened for him today across a range of different things. The start, the spins, obviously, and then overtaking he struggled with.
Jenny, this heavy rain on the final lap that Sebastian Vettel was promised?
Do not discount it as kidology at this moment in time. There are some very dark black clouds over the circuit. The rain was about 5 kilometres away 2 laps ago, and I'm getting reports from some people that there are a few drops of rain now starting to fall at the track.
Okay.
If you're on a very worn intermediate that's basically a slick, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem if it's a lot of rain.
So like Hamilton?
Like Hamilton, like Perez. What condition are the Ferraris' intermediate tyres in? Both Ferraris have driven really well today, coming from outside the top 10, remember. Neither of them made Q3, and they're running 3rd and 4th with a handful of laps to go, looking really good. But what are their tyres like right now?
Lando Norris has been banging in 5 stages of the Grand Prix, and Norris is managing to catch him and maybe attack him for 8th position, lap 54 of 58.
Norris was probably about 80 to 100 seconds off Stroll 25 laps ago, and when he passed George Russell and then Kevin Magnussen in quick succession, he's been really strong, but he's just had such a poor first half of the race, so that's why he's down in 9th, trying to fight through for 8th. But his second half of the race has been electric to get back ahead of both Renaults.
He was 3.2 seconds quicker than Stroll on that last lap.
He's going to make it, isn't he? He's just a couple of seconds behind Stroll.